Next is Casey Brescia. He's going to be talking about how to tweet. He is a comms assistant for the Secular Coalition for America. He's been a member of the secular movement for the last 6 years. He's made his way up from an intern to now somebody who's getting paid for doing some awesome work. So everybody, here's Casey.
Thank you for the introduction. And yeah, I was an intern in the movement, and now I have a job. So if I did it, you can too. So thank you guys for coming out. This presentation is called How to Tweet Like It's Your Job, and I called it that for 2 reasons. First, because, as he mentioned, it actually is my job. I spend about 2 to 3 hours a day on social media, programming in content, drafting language, and sending it out, and then monitoring engagement. And second, I call it that because I think for every secular student group, you should have somebody in your group whose job it is to draft social media, monitor engagement, and make sure that you guys are sending content out. So social media is one of the most effective ways that your groups have to recruit members, advertise events, and be a part of the larger conversation in the secular movement. So the purpose of this presentation is to just educate you guys about some common pitfalls and mistakes that might be made so you don't do that, some best practice stuff, and hopefully help you build a social media strategy that lets you really engage with your peers on the social media platforms that they're actually using. Okay? So with that in mind, okay, no, I'm just kidding. That's not actually one of them. I kind of just wanted to see who would write it down, but I don't think anyone's doing that, or who would just like get up and leave and be like, this guy's no idea what he's talking about. All right, so these are the ones that people are actually using and the ones that we'll be talking about. So this data comes from a 2015 Harvard survey of what social media platforms people were using, specifically millennials, younger millennials. So we have about 88% on Facebook, 49% on Twitter, 58% on Instagram, 55% on Snapchat. We're mostly going to be focusing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If there's time in the Q&A, I'd love to give you some of my, I think, musings about the way Snapchat might be able to be used, some of the way that the other organizations are using it, and if any of you guys have had success using it for your groups, that'd be awesome. But we're mostly going to focus on those 3. And before we go into any specific platforms, I do want to talk about some general strategies and things that you guys should be doing. So, please take pictures of all the work that you guys are doing. If there was only one thing I was allowed to tell all of you, like if my presentation was 10 seconds long, I should be like, please take pictures of everything. Social media content with pictures gets more engagement. That's a fact. It's borne out by the data. I can tell you that just anecdotally. Being a comms assistant, content with pictures will always get more engagement. But not only that, it shows that your group is engaging. It shows that you guys are doing stuff. It's encouraging for people who don't know about the work that you're doing. They can look and they can see what you guys are doing. And for the national organizations who care about the work that you're doing on your campuses, we love to actually be able to see it and put faces to all the awesome work that you're doing. So please take pictures. I know there's people like running around taking pictures here, but take your own pictures and post content to social media. It's very important. And it's important for all the platforms. Photoshop, also very important. Something I didn't know when I was hired. But you have to be able to produce your own content. And you have to be able to add unique commentary that's yours into the secular conversation. It's a great way to get more followers. It's a great way to stay relevant. You can make up things for presidents. I'm just kidding, he actually did say that. That would be such a weird thing to lie about. But you can make stuff like this, kind of cool stuff. You can, for important anniversaries, we made this on the 1-year anniversary of the same-sex marriage decision. Or hypothetical, let's say the state of Mississippi passes like some crazy discriminatory religious freedom act. Totally hypothetical, obviously wouldn't happen. But if it did, you could make something like this and then share it on the hashtag and tweet at the governor with it. So it's really important. It allows you to make unique, original content. And if you guys make stuff like this and it's very topical, I would love to be able to retweet it from the Secular Coalition account. So branding consistency, just make sure that your content is consistent across platforms, specifically your profile picture being the most important. It makes your content more easily recognizable, and it just helps, it makes you look honestly professional. It makes your group look like you know what you're doing. For the cover photos on your platforms, so I would recommend a common profile picture and common background. Profile picture should probably be your logo, as long as it fits well in that space. And for your cover photo, either advertise an event that you guys are doing that's coming up is a good idea, or any campaigns that you're doing, like we have our secular values voter campaign, or any regular meeting times, or in the absence of any of that, just a group picture would be great. For your bios, especially on Twitter and Instagram, because you have very little space, make sure it captures your brand. Again, regular meeting times would be great to throw in there, because that could be the only thing that people see when they first go to your page. If they don't want to read a lot of your content, they can get your meeting time very quickly. Most of you won't have a website to link to. So in the absence of a website, I highly recommend linking to Facebook. That's probably the closest thing that you'll have to a website where you can post a lot of content. And as we saw, 88% of your peers have Facebook. So that's probably your safest bet for your steady social media platform that you should always be updating, even if you don't have time to update anything else. So I'd recommend linking to that. Hashtags, I don't really have to tell you guys about. You guys know what hashtags are. That said, make sure that you're using the right one when you want to be a part of some conversation, when you want to tweet about a specific bill, if you're doing something political, if you're trying to get news about your campus or comment on something that's happening at your school. Make sure you use a hashtag that your peers are using that relates to your school. And if you're trying to get, oh, did it really get cut off like that? Oh, that's so, it wasn't doing that before. All right, whatever. So if you're trying to reach out to the national organizations and tweet about something that's in the news, make sure you use the hashtags that we're using. Secular Coalition uses secular values. American Atheists, one of our member orgs, uses atheist voter. American Humanist Association uses humanist a lot, things like that. That's a great way for us to see your content and see that you guys are joining the conversation. Did anyone see the hashtag that was used for the Noah's Ark event? Oh, Noah, he didn't? That's amazing. And I see there's a comment that says, I'm just so mad I didn't think of it. Timing your posts. It would be a daunting task to distribute the content yourself throughout the day, to just constantly be like, oh, it's 12 o'clock, I have to send this post out. So you can actually schedule posts in advance. And I'd highly recommend that. Just whoever's in charge of your social media, spend 30 minutes or an hour and just schedule some posts to go out throughout the day. You can do it on Facebook, and I highly recommend, especially for Facebook, not using a third-party app to schedule your posts, because Facebook will penalize you a lot. They hate non-Facebook things. So you can do it right in Facebook. Just click the drop-down and you can schedule posts. In terms of what time to schedule them, if your school has any breaks where students tend not to have classes, like our school had a 1-hour break where pretty much nobody had classes, that's a really good time, because that's obviously when people will be on their social media. Weekends, a lot of analytic data from a lot of different corporations shows that people tend to be more active on weekends. Kind of makes sense. And specifically, hard word to say, for you guys, Sunday nights. Because Sunday nights, students won't be going out, they'll be in their dorms just dreading Monday morning classes, and they're much more likely to be on social media, and that's a really good time to make sure that you get impressions and that they actually see your content. So moving to Facebook specifically, these are just the image sizes that you guys need to be mindful of when you're setting up your page, because there's nothing worse than like a cover photo where like half of what's supposed to be the subject of the picture is out of it. So you can size your pictures to make sure they fit. For a cover photo, it's 851 by 315. For a profile picture, it's 180 by 180. And all this stuff is widely available online. If you just Google social media image sizes, this is actually probably one of the first things that'll pop up. And it works. I know that. You can edit this little sign up button right here to reflect a whole bunch of stuff. So you can make it a donate button. I don't know how many of your groups can actually take donations, but you can have it linked to a specific event. You can do all sorts of great stuff with it. For your groups, I'd recommend probably, if you guys have an email list that's running, you can hook it up to a Google Doc, and it will go right, it'll fill in your emails for your contacts. Highly recommend that. Good use for it. Don't just let it sit there, because again, this is one of the first things people will see, and this is where most of your peers we know have Facebook pages for sure. So make sure you use that. Also, another way, if you have a post that gets a lot of interaction, make sure that it gets shared a lot. You can really capitalize on that by clicking right here where it has all the people who have liked that post. If you click that, a drop-down menu will open, and you can see all the individual people who liked it, and you can invite them to join your page. So it can be a little bit tedious, especially when 975 people or more like it. But that's a great way to make sure that those people who saw your content actually come back to it. You can send them an invitation. Facebook Live. So it's a new feature that Facebook rolled out. It's something that we at the Secular Coalition are trying to use more. It's very easy to use. If you just go to, when you post a status, you'll see the Go Live button. It'll bring up this screen. And you can give a name to your video, and then you go live. What's really cool about Facebook Live is that it automatically notifies all your followers that you're going live. So unless they've adjusted their settings otherwise. So you can absolutely be sure that they'll see it. Also, Facebook doesn't penalize it the way that they might some other third-party apps, because now it's theirs. So the algorithm will favor it. It'll actually come up in their news feeds. It's a great way to advertise events. If you guys are tabling and you want to invite people to come down and hang out at your table, this is a great way to do it. Send out any messages that you really want to make sure people see. If you have speakers and you can actually pick up the audio, which you can buy little shotgun mics for your phone. Did you know that? I just found that out. It's so cool. It's like $40, a little tiny shotgun mic. Such a great idea. So, highly recommend Facebook Live. It's a feature that we're trying to use more, and a lot of organizations are trying to use more. Moving to Twitter. These are the Twitter image sizes that you need to be mindful of. 15 by 500 for your background, 400 for your profile picture. Again, very easy to adjust most images to that. Whoops, overshot that. So this is what we use to schedule posts for Twitter at the Secular Coalition. We use TweetDeck. It's Twitter's own scheduling service that they have. You can adjust these streams that you see right here to monitor all sorts of different content. So you can monitor your mentions, you can monitor the major secular organizations if you want. You can schedule in posts. And if you have multiple Twitter accounts that you're watching, which most of your groups probably don't have, but if you do have, like if you also supervise a community group, for example, you can use it to schedule different posts for different groups, and change the message change the post depending on what group it is. If you're looking for who to follow, both on Twitter and on Instagram, and just sort of who to be watching in the movement, highly recommend these lists that we have that are publicly available. We have our member organizations. The Secular Coalition is made up of 18 voting member organizations. A lot of the largest secular organizations in the country are members, so you can go to our member org list, make sure you're following all of them on their Twitters and Instagrams. And the secular community. We try to keep a list of all the secular groups in the country who have Twitter accounts, and we try to monitor them. It's about 351 members right now, and we always try to keep it updated, so it's also a really good list to check out. This is Twitteronomy. This is a great way to find hashtags and find out what the major secular organizations are actually doing. Twitteronomy, I just realized, sounds like a book from the Bible, like a reading from Twitteronomy. But thank you, Steph, for laughing. So this is just an example. You can run a basic Twitteronomy search on any organization. This is one from us. This is who we tweet at the most. And then you can also see what hashtags we're using. It's a really good way to find out what hashtags the secular organizations are using and who you ought to be following and tweeting at and things like that. Just figure out who the important people are. And lastly, just a comparison of Twitter and Instagram. So we saw in the data that most people are using Instagram, and Instagram has been really up and coming. I suspect that might start to change for two reasons. And a lot of the Twitter content, a lot of the Twitter strategies I talked about are applicable for Instagram because it's set up a very similar way. But two things have happened recently that might change that. So first of all, Twitter announced that they are no longer going to have pictures count for characters. So that change hasn't been implemented yet, but it should be coming very soon. That's going to make Twitter much more competitive against Instagram, and it's going to make Twitter much more image heavy, which I think is what it's always sort of been lacking. Instagram, on their part, recently sent out a press release, I think about a month ago now, announcing that they're going to start using an algorithm to sort their content. So right now, if you go to your Instagram, it's always been in the past a live stream, much like Twitter. which is what makes Twitter so cool. You can see in real time what's happening. Instagram, I think that's what they had going for them. Unfortunately, they decided to change that, and now they're going to use an algorithm to sort their content. So it no longer has that constant narrative. You know you're going to see everything the way that you do for Twitter. I think that's actually going to make Twitter much more competitive and going to make it increasingly important, and I think that you'll see that becoming used more widely. So, and I made it under time this time. It's awesome. Yeah, that's what I got. And if you guys have any questions, and of course, if you want to talk about the Snapchat thing, that would be awesome. I'd love to hear how you guys have used that. And that's all I got. Any questions? Derek?
Could you give some more suggestions on what you, for sources for content, what you think might work?
I can think of two great sources. As a plug, my own organization, Secular Coalition, we send out something called the Morning Read, not the Morning Heresy. The Morning Read. That's a tragic mistake. The Morning Read, we send out a newsletter. I would highly recommend signing up for that. It's out usually no later than 10 a.m. every day, and it has a great rundown of a lot of news that's happening. The other one that I was going to mention, no matter what anyways, was the Morning Heresy. It's a newsletter put together by the Center for Inquiry, or not a newsletter, blog put together by the Center for Inquiry. And it's very similar. It has a lot of great news. It's out early in the morning, and it's a great way to find out what you should be talking about and what's going on. So those are two great sources for content. In the back?
Yeah, maybe it's just sort of old, but I mean, how can an organization utilize Snapchat beyond dick pics? I don't want to repeat that because it's going to get posted online. But great ways. One of the organizations that I follow who's been using Snapchat a lot is Planned Parenthood Action, actually. And they show a lot of the rallies that they're doing. They'll comment on, for example, when the whole women's health decision came out, they were providing commentary on that via Snapchat, and they were showing their rallies across the country. I think that's a really cool way. Anytime you guys have, so my suspicion, and again, I wanted to kind of crowdsource this one because this is an emerging platform that larger organizations are just starting to get a handle on how to use, but my intuition is that Snapchat is really good for live events. It's a really great way when you guys have meetings, when you guys are tabling, if you guys are protesting a hate preacher who's come to your campus. I think Snapchat is a really good way to capture stuff like that. It's a really great way to provide video content and to show people that you're doing great work. And honestly, it's where so many people are right now. So you have to meet them where they are. Thomas, you had your hand up?
Yes, I have first question then comment. My
Sure.
question is, how easy is it for a group to get under the secular community list?
Oh, super easy. Like, we just have to know about it. And I'll add you. Yeah, absolutely. We want to make sure that we have all the organizations in there.
And then my comment is just about the Morning Read. We at the Long Island Atheists have just recently started to use our Facebook page. We got our Facebook group. We're making that unofficial now, and we're trying to get more of the general public to realize what we're doing.
That's a good idea.
The number one resource that we get all of our articles and materials from is from the Morning Read. All
What?
of our people on our social media team get all the articles from the Morning Read, and we analyze them and we see if it's best to put it up on that page, and we share it everywhere.
That's the best thing I've heard all week. That's awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Anyone else? Oh, yeah?
So I have a lot more experience when it comes to Facebook. Like for Facebook, when if you want to pay for your posts, you go on, you have the option of selecting just people who would like you instead of shotgunning it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you have like a specific event, that sometimes can be nice if you're having problems with like sharing, or you want to really get it on there and it's not too expensive. You have like a size of 500 to 1,000 people just to target them, like $1-2, and you can more or less guarantee that the majority of your members will see it at some point. Is there an equivalent for Twitter, or how's been your experience for actually paying for advertising through social media services? Or have you done so?
Oh yeah. We so Facebook, and I'm sure this is on one of my notes somewhere. I just forgot to mention it. Facebook has become, unfortunately, a pay-to-play service, like you said. That change happened. We noticed it a lot in July and August recently. the engagement just dropped like crazy. And I thought we were doing something wrong at first, and then I found out that Facebook had actually changed their algorithm in such a way that content that's not being paid for, it's not sponsored, just isn't getting the same reach anymore, and it sucks, to be honest. For Twitter and previously Instagram, there was no point in paying to get our content boosted because they were these real-time news feeds. So it was honestly just posting as much as we could and making sure the content was engaging. Now that Instagram has changed their policy, I don't know if it would be efficacious to have any sort of sponsored content. I don't know if they even have that available yet. If they do, we haven't used it. But we have used it for Facebook. And like you said, we have a bigger audience than probably most student groups. We have 94,000 likes, but yeah, for like $5-10 we can increase our engagement enormously. And like you said, actually through the targeting feature, which is available right on the side, you can make sure you focus your audience and that you're only reaching the people who you really want to reach. And yeah, you can that and a small boost, you can get your content right in front of people. And actually something that I mentioned before, but in terms of getting money to do boosts like that, I don't know about how your schools are with handing out grants for projects and events, but I know that in the past when we were requesting money from our school, would put down money for marketing if we wanted to have flyers printed or like table toppers made. I never got to try this as a student group, but I would recommend trying to get $5-10 from your school to boost a Facebook post. Have it drafted, show it to them, and be like, this is what we're going to send out. It's to promote this event. Will you give us money that we can use on social media? I think the success of that will depend on just your school's policy, but if they'll do it, I would highly recommend that. I think that's a great idea. Anyone else? No? All right, well, thank you guys so much.